Good morning. Welcome to Prime Time at BU Library. Prime Time is designed to celebrate the experiences and accomplishments of Bethel faculty, students, and staff. It is a collaborative project between the Friends of the BU Library, faculty development, and other offices on campus. Most of our programming is recorded, and you can find the recordings in the BU Digital Library. A preview of this coming Thursday on November 17th, seniors Matt Nelson and Nick Lowry share their reflections as they explore white privilege, systemic poverty, and Christian faith through their study abroad experience in Guatemala. Today we welcome Faculty Excellence Award for Service winner Dr. Patricia Paulson, Professor of Science Education. Faculty Excellence Awards are given annually to faculty whose excellence as teachers, scholars, and individuals make them role models in the Bethel community. They are nominated and chosen by their peers. Dr. Paulson joined Bethel in 1999 following a career in teaching in elementary through high schools. Her focus as a Bethel professor has been to develop a curriculum that prepares students to excel as teachers in the sciences, which includes the recent addition of the STEM minor for elementary education undergraduates and a STEM certificate in Bethel's graduate school. One of Patty's standout projects has been Girls in Engineering, Math, and Science. The program brings elementary-aged girls on campus for a day of STEM activities led by female Bethel students and faculty. Today she will share her vision around a personal God-given passion to empower by serving from below those traditionally excluded from STEM fields. Join me in welcoming Patty.
Thank you all for coming. I've been sharing with people that it's kind of strange to be speaking from a service award. I mean, if it was scholarship, I could be very scholarly, and teaching, I could show how well I teach. But service, the minute I talk about it, it doesn't become service anymore. And so it's kind of a strange feeling. So thank you for coming, and thank you for support. I just want to share from my heart where my passion is, and know that each of you have the same passion for perhaps another area as well. So hopefully some of that will make sense. Also moving to empower that next generation that takes over after I'm gone. And got some of them in the front row, so thank you for coming. And I can see them pointing to where they are in the picture from GEMS. So this is our most recent GEMS. We had 150 fifth grade girls here. And just so you know, that is where they get together in small groups that are led by our majors, and then they go to all the different sessions that are presented by our women faculty, and they have lunch here. So we've been doing it, I think we've done 10 now GEMS here. So each of us has a gift. Let's see if we can gift to moving this. Nope. There we go. And each of us has our own abilities. And I think one of the things in teaching that I talk to mostly, hopefully be verified, is that each is unique and special and gifted by God for His purposes. And we want them to find what their vocation is, what their calling is. And so we want to pass those blessings on. And some people, I think, go through their life without knowing what that passion is. And for me, it's always been sharing God's creation. From the physics standpoint, from the chemical standpoint, from the life science standpoint, from the mountains, earth science, astronomy, supermoon last night, realizing how amazing our Father is and wanting to share that. Okay. There we go. Jesus modeled a very servanthood leadership style. I couldn't even begin to emulate it. I keep getting myself in the way. But he modeled always coming alongside or serving below. He didn't come in on a charging horse to take over, although many would have liked him to. So that servanthood style, when I first came here, we had a $50,000 3M grant, and we did 16 Saturdays for Science in the Frogtown area. And the wisdom of the leaders as I met in Frogtown was just hang out with us for a year. Just be with us. Don't come from Bethel like you know how to solve our problems. And it was the most wonderful experience, spending whole weekends at retreat centers together. And this little farm girl from Hartford, Ohio, figured out there was a whole world out there that I didn't know. And they were my mentors and my teachers. Since then, other people have come alongside. In the sciences, Ken and I just got back from Medtronic where we had the STEM group. And one of the questions asked is, well, what do people major in to come here? And in the sciences, we have this team approach because we know no one has all the pieces of knowledge they need. And so he talked about how different people come from biochemical, from physics, from computer science, even from, in that building, business, so that they come together as a team and utilize all those gifts. We're the same at Bethel. And we are blessed by many, many gifts. In the real world, it's often power and control, right? Instead of collaboration. And that's one of the things that, frankly, has driven women and minority groups from STEM. I should mention that my title, I assume some things that maybe I shouldn't. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's not science or technology or engineering or mathematics. It's and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so it's that collaboration, it's that working together. I was just playing with the title a little bit, but that's its real meaning. This is something I'm feeling more and more passionately. We leave a legacy. It's not about us, it's those who come after us. And if something collapses when we leave, then we haven't done a very good job. And so whether it's the teachers in the school, or it's the people I see at the national level, or it's my students, hopefully they will catch that same vision and passion. I know many of them do already. Elementary teachers are probably the most challenged, and they don't get any credit at all. That's the sad thing. They have to know everything, and they don't get any credit. So they have to teach science, but boy, in the old days, you have one science course, and you had to teach anything that came up. So you may have taken an astronomy class, and you're stuck with the life science unit, right? Bethel is the only place I know that does elementary science the way we do it. So that they have a half a semester of life science, a half semester of chemistry, a half semester of physics, and a half semester of earth science. Dan often teaches the physics, Ken often teaches the chemistry, Ashley often teaches the chemistry, and they are taught within the division. So it's science experts, if you will, that are taking it to the elementary level, and they have done a marvelous job. Our students come out very well prepared. Add the mathematics that people like Becky do, and we start pulling it together. 39% of the elementary teachers feel well prepared. That's pretty low. And then there's, if you don't like it, on top of it. So you feel like, I don't know science. Only smart people know science. That's the message we give, right? And so if you don't like science and you don't feel prepared, and the tests are all in reading, writing, and math, where's your effort going to be? So what we want to do is empower, because we know at that elementary level, if things don't happen, it's not happening anywhere. Because suddenly they'll appear in an upper division physics course or chemistry course and memorize because there's no foundational network. We are, out of 34 developed nations on the most recent test, ranking 21st. We're not doing well as a country. And what we found is that all those accountability, what gets tested gets the attention. But we know kids don't learn in silos. Did you read Finland is now going to no subjects? Because the integrated nature of 21st century learning, and how do we bring in all the pieces? So if we teach reading, writing, and math in isolation, we give worksheets. We give textbooks. We don't look at problem solving and real world things. Now, add that to the background of someone who has no background, particularly. Perhaps they haven't grown up in a affluent family where they have all the various Goldilocks engineering kits and the snap circuits and the water testing kits and all the stuff I have in the lab of my grandchildren. They get into science classes and it's memorize and regurgitate. Who likes that? That's no fun. That's the hoop I jump over. So if we can get elementary students engaged and excited, and how do you look up the information you need? You can't know it all. How do you write to convince someone? What is that persuasive type of writing where we put evidence with our claims? Wouldn't that be an interesting world if we actually had evidence behind everything we claim? We're not seeing it modeled. Okay? The mathematics has much more meaning when it's your own data and you want to prove your point. That's what gets exciting, and that's what our dream is. Gender stereotypes, we know, start as early as 2nd grade. Boys do math, girls don't do math. Sorry, Becky. And if you think about it, it's often taught in a very didactic, boring kind of way. Lots of problems, lots of worksheets. Not when Becky teaches it, but it's often taught that way. So what fun is that? Women in particular care about things in the social and personal perspective. How can I make the world a better place? The 35W bridge was built by a team of women engineers. What's cool about that? We have lights along the side and we have scrolled parts to recognize those who died. It's the strongest bridge in the world. It better be. Okay? But it's also, it has, how does it look on a postcard? Personal and social perspective. In every place else in the world, girls outperform guys. Not in the US. 30% of elementary teachers don't even feel qualified to how do you encourage women in science. Because that's not their world. That's not something anyone ever encouraged them to do. It's those role models and mentors that are so critical. If you look from 2001 to 2014, the numbers are exactly the same. Engineering, computing, and advanced manufacturing workforce. Women haven't gained a bit. There you go, 86% of the engineers, 74% of the computer professionals are men. Now, not only is that challenging, it's challenging for the women that enter into those worlds. So how do we create resilience and allow girls to feel confident in those kind of settings? We're working with Boston Scientific right now to look at some partnering back and forth because they're losing women in engineering at Boston Scientific. There's no mentors above them, there's no women in high position, and the glass ceiling's firmly in place. So how do we raise resilient girls that are not pushy, are not into power, but they're into making the world a better place as they want to? Not only with women, but with all students. This may be hard to read, but Latino and African American high school grads are half as likely as white grads to have completed a rigorous curriculum. Schools don't have equal resources. I believe firmly in public schools. Craig and I have spent our whole lives in public schools. That's what will change society. But if they have the poorest teachers, the poorest resources, untrained people working, no mentors, no money, they don't come prepared. There's a couple other slides. If you look at all those in STEM, about 30% right now, the various African American and Latinos are down in the 10%, 14%. Yet 30 of the fastest growing occupations will require a background in STEM. They don't all have to be Medtronic engineers. There's lots of ways to enter the STEM workforce. And that's where the money is, and that's where the jobs are. The most pressing challenge facing U.S. education is to provide all students a fair opportunity to learn. It's a social justice issue. It's not a stand in power in a big office and demand what tests we'll have. It's about those kids. And we can see the fingerprints of God on each one of them. Each is born with capabilities. And if we don't empower them to enter those fields, things will stay static, as they have for a long time. Since basically in the last, since 2009, high school test scores, international test scores have been flat. We're starting to show a little progress in 4th and 8th grade, but it flattens out at 12th. We teach didactically. We teach memorize and regurgitate. We have 45-minute periods. They can't get through a lab. They can't do the science discourse. They can't do the real-world applications. We just send them through the factory. Okay. And not only that, but less than half of the students are ready for college-level math, according to ACT. And only 31% who took the ACT demonstrated that they're ready for college-level science. That's Ashley's research. She can probably confirm that. We care about the economy. Let's get our own folks in these jobs. It's estimated, this is a change the equation. It's got lots of fascinating information on it to check. But we could gain an extra 2.5 trillion. Why? Because we're not outsourcing everything to other countries where women and people of other cultures are excelling. The United States ranks behind 26 other countries in their share of college students who get undergrad degrees in science and engineering. Computing is without a doubt the biggest gap right now in terms of getting women into computer fields. We kind of tend to advertise it as a, you go in your little cubicle and you work on your computer programming, and women don't always like that isolated work environment. So it hasn't been very interesting, and it seems so theoretical. You're writing problems, right? You're writing programs. So what we're finding as well is that, this is a fascinating thing to me, 36% of the Americans admit to saying they can't do math. Would you admit to saying, oh, I don't do reading? But for some reason, it's okay to say, I don't do math. I don't like math. I don't like science. And yet that's where the fields are right now. Between 18 to 35, 53% say, oh, I don't do math. Those are the ones that are coming into Bethel. Only 14% of the U.S. bachelor's degrees in STEM were awarded to people of color, even though they represent 33% college-age population. Some of it's lack of preparation, some of it's lack of planning and creating opportunities to prepare students to be ready for college level. Only 9% of the master's degrees and 6% of the doctorates went to people of color. We know that if you are in Asian, Latino, Black, or Native American, access to computers in the school is very limited. And that's a gateway piece for people to be able to technologically use things. But here's the interesting thing. Are we really teaching people to use them as tools? Or are we stuck in entertainment? Because the most tech savvy ran dead last in the world on problem solving using technology. So there's lots of smartphones, there's lots of Facebook, there's lots of Snapchat or whatever there's out there. But to use those as a tool and to be empowered, but to have that tool in your hand that you can do so much with, rather than just self-entertainment. For me, it's going 3 different directions because figure if you keep spreading seeds, some are going to take. That's biblical, right? I never know where the rocky soil is. But certainly, I am so proud of the crew that developed the STEM minor we have at Bethel. As we were leaving Medtronic today, Ken said, because we had the group there as a field trip, he said, see, the same discussions going on here we have in class. Seeing the real world applications, seeing those medical devices that save lives and keep people alive. And that same science discourse comes in our classroom. Of course, we're making Play-Doh, but that's okay. Here we are at the Science House where we have a membership where any of our education students can go check out materials to use in classrooms. But we go down there and prepare for the senior level STEM course that Dan and I will teach together this spring. And they go out and they teach a 5-day unit, STEM, all STEM, hands-on, lots of materials being carried in, come back and revise it, and then they will be presenting it this spring at Senior Symposium for STEM. So that is their STEM minor, the 4 science classes, the 2 math, and of course the math is course block, but then the 2 upper division STEM classes that are taught within the science division. Working with other schools, Ashley will recognize the Heritage crew here, but I work with lots of different schools. And it's come full circle. This next week I actually get to go to my grandson's school in Menominee to help develop a STEM curriculum there. Because our son has a huge NSF grant that they're trying to clean up Lake Menomin, and the school wants to partner with the college. So I get to actually go play with my grandson to do this. But I love being in schools. Because I know teachers haven't always had that preparation. And then at National, this happened to be a workshop I presented last spring, and then I serve on the elementary committee for science with NSTA. And as a result, I get to go there every year. We're working on a position statement there. So trying to make a difference of what's that position statement say? How do we create those rich neural pathways in kids' brains with rich hands-on science where they've done lots of writing, lots of talking about it, lots of manipulating it, and form these neural connections. So when they get into advanced courses, they're not memorizing it. They're adding layers and building dendrites out. The achievement gap for science starts in kindergarten, more than reading or math. Now that to me is definitely a social justice issue. But how do we teach? Well, we teach in silos. Okay, now's time for science, now's time for reading, and oh, we'll do 15 minutes of science and 90 minutes of reading. Okay? We can't cross over. We can't read about science. Or if we do, we're certainly not going to do hands-on, right? But what engages the kids? What do kids ask questions about? Yeah. What's it? Where is it? Can I? What will happen if? I kind of think I'd like to try, right? Can I look it up? Oh, you mean you want to read about it? Oh, okay. Keeping an interactive science notebook where they write down those thoughts, where they keep their data in tables. That's the meaningful integration. That's why we do reading, writing, and math. Project 2061 through the American Association for the Advancement of Science proposed in about the time of Nation at Risk, 1983, that U.S. would be first in the world in math and science by the year Halley's Comet returns. We're going to have to push it. I think it's 2021, something like that. This white Western male model of education, nothing against it, but it's competitive. Who can get the answer first? If you get it first, you're smart. Oh, I didn't get it in time, I'm stupid. I can't do science. That's not the way we want to set up the classroom. That's not 21st century skills. What are 21st century skills? Being able to write and talk and collaborate and plan together and work in teams. So competition actually can alter the brain and shut it down to say, that's it, I can't do it. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Whereas if we're collaborating and using all the voices in the room, the gender and culture friendly ways of teaching science, we talk about the more rich voices in the room, the richer the conversation, right? Even if it's somebody that disagrees with you. The more voices in the room, the richer the conversation. But what do they see publicly? Arguing. My idea's best. I know best. You don't know anything. Who'd you vote for? We get this dichotomy that people are not understanding the richness of every problem. The more you know, the less you know, right? The less you know, you can become an authority really quickly, right? Ask my 2-year-old grandson. Okay? Memorizing facts is not fun. As my grandson said, I showed you I knew how to do it on the first row. I'll be good. Do I have to do the whole worksheet? That's not fun. One right answer. If you know it, you're smart. If you don't, you're stupid. We form those ideas in our brain. We don't talk about it. We don't ask questions. Because if I ask a question, people think I'm stupid. I'm the only one that has that question. How many times does even our college students go, this may be a stupid question, but we don't want any question to be stupid. Textbooks, worksheets kind of thing. It's boring. But if we're working in collaboration, if we're solving real world problems, that's how Finland's setting it all up. On authentic real world problems. Multiple solutions. We never find the right answer. Discourse is more important than anything. And the big idea is we never fail. We just get one new source of data. We can always improve. Think about that in our whole life. If we thought in that terms, we can always improve. We can always learn more. They enter the world of scientists and engineers. The exact same process we do in STEM was on the wall at Medtronic. I'm going, Ken, look! Maybe we're doing it right. We talk about mirrors and windows. Part of the problem is non-traditional science and math people don't have mentors to look at. They can't picture themselves as a scientist. They can't picture themselves as an engineer because nobody they know does that. And if they can't see that, if they can't see that window, what does an engineer do? Most of them think they run trains. Okay? What do real engineers do? They solve problems. They save lives. They make the world a better place. And that's what we want to have happen. Okay? And then that mirror lens. Can I see myself in that role? All our STEM students, when they go out, they have their lab coats they put on. I know it's stereotypical, but I want them to see women in lab coats. And I want them to see people from different cultures in lab coats so that they can picture themselves there too. A lot of us don't wear them, but it's still kind of, it's lovely costume, right? Put on that lab coat and the goggles and the gloves, you know, real science. So. But most of the pictures they see are white male. So it is a critical thing. Not only that, the images in the textbooks are often very discriminatory. They do not present positive images. We're getting better, but we're not there yet. Ask Randy Bergen about this. He's the expert. He actually did the work with Carol DeWick. But basically, Carol talks about the two mindsets, the fixed and the growth. Now, many of you may have heard of it because as parents we're told not to build fixed mindsets in our kids by saying, oh, you're so smart. You're the best at this, you know. And they think they're smart. And so therefore, they don't want to make any mistakes. And it's often a really big shock when they get to Bethel and they find they're with the top 20%. Everybody's in that. And everybody's not the smartest. what should be valued is hard work, perseverance, staying with something. And that's the growth mindset. It's the effort that matters. I can take feedback from others. I can handle that. I can improve. We're not saying fixed in terms of what jobs people can do. We're providing images that here are pathways. And it's one of the things we have to most seriously consider is pathways. So that people from non-traditional backgrounds in the sciences, whether they be different cultures or females. By the way, life science biology is the only area that women are pretty equally balanced. Medical school is pretty equal. Personal and social perspective probably has something to do with that, okay? Physics, computer science, math, engineering, and chemistry are still pretty much dominated. But we want to give them that idea that they can do it. We were even noticing we were walking around Medtronic the number of women in the pictures. And there's some, but not a lot. So we don't want this deterministic view of the world. We want the anything's possible. Dream big. These are just some random pictures of what we're doing at Bethel. This is from our STEM class. Right here we're doing wetland filtration, and that's just an example of all the data. We fill whiteboards with data because it looks really good. But then we can analyze it. And we're hearing the students say things like, I feel like maybe it has something to do with this. I'd really like to try this. What do you think would happen if we did this? And so they're much more open to it. Andra's back there, she's done it, right? And then this is our block tours in science methods. They're building roller coasters. And notice that they're keeping track of their data because they really want to prove that they've got the best roller coaster. But we never find that. This is an outreach with St. Francis Middle School with our Sigma Zeta. You see Scott Cronholm in the background and Sophie Morris. We're building a compost for them. And then this is my secondary crew at NSTA. Justine's up here. And they were up entering that world of science teaching when we went to the conference together. This is the future. We want that can-do attitude. World changers. It's one of our goals, right? And who better to change the world than teachers? I don't know. What's best for my students? How can I prepare them for the future? Because once you enter the world of teaching, it's, as I say, block 2, it's not about you anymore. Get over that. It's about your students and their learning. Because that's why we do what we do. But we don't do it alone. We dedicate every day to God, right? And the yoke is light because God carries it with us. Each of us is wonderfully and fearfully made. Each of us has a mission and calling by our Creator. There is no favoritism. There is no power position. We serve from below. We facilitate. We empower so that those that leave us go able to do more than ever before. It's that whole idea of faith, hope, and love. These are pictures from GEMS, by the way. Nursing, and I think that was, strawberry DNA. So, questions, comments? How do you see this working in your life? How can you leave a legacy? How can you empower? Thinking back to what we've had in the past, where do we go in the future? Questions, comments? It wasn't a sermon.
Amen.
Thank you, honey. Any students want to jump in? You're the next group. Justine tomorrow night will receive the 3rd out of 4 Minnesota High Tech Awards for scholarship. And she is elementary, middle, and high school physics major. And so she's going to be getting that award. That's our future. Check it. Well, yeah.
Where did you get the passion? Like, I mean, when you were growing up, did you have like a mentor or something? Or where did you get this idea that there need to be more women? Because I'm guessing that when you were a young person, there weren't role models for you. So.
Yeah, and I grew up in the farm. Women were not thought of very highly. It was, the men are coming, quick, get the coffee out. But 2 things. One is my father was permanently disabled, so Mom went into the insurance business and was very determined to succeed, so couldn't otherwise. And my cousin was a biology professor at Missouri Valley, and I spent every summer out in the fields with him. And so the combination, it's where I'm happy. I gotta be outside. So, thanks, good question. Well, thank you for coming.